team from the Mexican Pacific League is moving to Arizona. This news dropped a month ago and the team was officially introduced a couple weeks ago, so I'm a bit late on this one. Thanks to Kenny C for reminding me about it in the comments. Between this and the Caribbean series including teams from Asia and Europe, Winter League Baseball is looking very different these days. The team is Mayos de Navajoa, not some new team that struggled to gain a following. That does happen sometimes. A new expansion team appears, but it doesn't really catch on. Then they disappear or move to some other place and try to make it work there. No, Mayos have been around since 1959, all that time in Navajoa. 66 years. One of the most unfortunate teams. They only won 2 LMP titles in that time. Once in the 1978-79 season, when a young Ricky Henderson was playing there. The second time, the 1999-2000 season. So they're currently in a 25-year title drought. In addition to Henderson, Fernando Valenzuela started his professional career with Mayos in 1977. Randy Arozarena played for Mayos before starting his MLB career, after defecting from Cuba. So they've been there a long time, won a couple championships, had some great players come through there. But now, it's all over. Their new home is Tucson, Arizona. This won't be the first time a professional team in a Mexican baseball league calls a U.S. city home. In the Summer League, LMP, Tecolotes de los Dos Laredos, or Owls of the Two Laredos, split their home games between Laredo, Texas and Nuevo Laredo, Mexico. That's a neat little arrangement actually, 2 cities right across the border from each other, with pretty much the same name, and stadiums with identical seating capacities, sharing a team. But that's not what's happening with Mayos. All home games will be in Tucson, a completely US-based team. The first time an LMP team will be based outside of Mexico. Oh, and they're changing the name. It's not Mayos anymore. Presently they're being called the Tucson Baseball Club. They'll go by this name for the first season, then have fans vote on a name after that. So, why? According to the team president and the league president, it's because of some very complicated issues, making it unsustainable for the franchise to remain in Sonora. They mentioned low attendance, a lack of sponsors, trouble securing financial resources, and a, quote, constant battle with the fans, whatever that means. Their home stadium, Estadio Manuel Ciclón Echeverria, is 55 years old now. They say the conditions are not up to standards, and they couldn't get the money for a renovation. I don't have enough information to give an opinion whether the move was justified or not. What a team and league presidents say and what fans of the team say are usually very different. I'll stay out of that one. And they don't say why they're moving to a U.S. city instead of finding another city in Mexico. My guess is they couldn't find one suitable enough. Between the LMB and LMP, they've got 30 teams in 28 cities, if my counting is right. That's exactly what MLB's got, and MLB has one team outside the U.S. So it kind of makes sense that the Mexican leagues will now have one outside of Mexico, too. Also, LMP teams are almost entirely in the western part of the country. That's why it's called the Mexican Pacific League. So their search for an alternative city was probably limited to that area. Geographically, Arizona does fit in with the other teams, even though it's across the border. Now, why would Tucson want a team from the LMP? Well, because presently they have nothing. They have a long history with baseball, but right now, nothing. Previously, there were the Tucson Padres. They left in 2013. Before that, Tucson Toros, a Houston Astros affiliate, and the Tucson Sidewinders of the Arizona Diamondbacks organization. It was also home to spring training and Arizona Fall League, but not anymore. So they would welcome any kind of baseball team right about now. And baseball fans in and around Tucson are probably more familiar with the LMP than fans in any other city. Since 2011, Tucson has been annual hosts of the Mexican Baseball Fiesta. Every year in early October, 3 teams from the LMP play in Tucson, along with the Arizona University baseball team. A good practice event for the LMP teams just before their regular season begins. The 4-day event draws over 20,000 fans every year. Early last November, the first LMP regular season series held outside of Mexico was in Tucson, between Yaquis de Obregón and Águilas de Mexicali. So Tucson residents know the LMP. The venue they'll be using is the same one used for both of those events, the 11,500 capacity Kino Veterans Memorial Stadium. This was also the host venue for this year's WBC qualifier Pool B. It received some upgrades for the qualifier. Opened in 1998, still in great shape, and just the right size for the LMP. Is this a good thing? First glance, it doesn't look right. You've got one of the LMP's oldest franchises leaving town and abandoning the name that's been associated with it all that time. 66 years, that's longer than the Athletics were in Oakland. And relocating to another country, when Mexico is in the name of the league, that won't come without some controversy. My biggest concern would be if this becomes a trend. If an LMP team is successful in Tucson, why not Albuquerque, California, Texas? With the economic difference between the countries, it might seem like a better option financially. The Tucson team could become the richest LMP ball club. Other team owners might see that and think, why not us too? Then they find an excuse to leave town and head across the border. Before you know it, a majority of the Mexican Pacific League teams are based in the U.S. Not that I think it'll ever get to that point. This will probably be the lone American team in the LMP. And I think most fans will be fine with that, just as MLB fans are fine with one team being in Canada. But there's always the concern that the one exception becomes the norm. There is a similar concern that's always expressed when the topic of MLB expansion to Mexico is discussed. That if an MLB franchise opens for business in a Mexican city, be it Monterrey, Mexico City, or wherever, the local LMB team will lose all support, and the LMB in general will fade into irrelevance. In that situation, the fear is that the more powerful league will move in and drive away the existing one. But in this situation, it's the more powerful market, luring teams away from the other one. I've always been pro-MLB expansion to Mexico, but not at the expense of the LMB. Never thought we'd see expansion go the other direction, with the LMP expanding into the U.S. But here we are, something new to think about. In the end, though, I think they don't need to worry about any other teams moving to a U.S. city. They'll decide it's better to stay where they are. Most LMP teams have been in their cities a long time and get massive support from the local fans, support they wouldn't be able to replicate in a U.S. city. Tucson is the exception. It's got over 500,000 people, a long history with baseball, and no baseball team. To quote one of the men responsible for bringing Mayos to Tucson, it's a baseball town without a baseball team. Any other U.S. city wouldn't be so thrilled to get an LMP team, because they already have a team in the summer. And as sad as it is, the name change is necessary. It's the only way. Mayos are the name of an indigenous people in Sonora. It won't work anywhere else. Besides, if you retire the name for now, that means any time in the future a new team can sprout up and call themselves Mayos de Navajoa. It doesn't even have to be an LMP team. It can be any league, any level. They can revive the name, the colors, the logo, and carry on the tradition of Mayos. This could be a really good thing for the LMP, though. If the team is embraced by fans in Tucson, which I think it will, that's a good new market to be in. Baseball fans all around Arizona will want to check out the new team. There's no other winter baseball to compete with, and it'll attract the curiosity of fans throughout the U.S. With a U.S.-based team, more people in the U.S. will be aware of the LMP. Lately, interest in winter baseball has grown in the U.S., but it's mostly been Lidom benefiting from that. Now LMP teams can make themselves better known to the Americans. Though a lot of that has to do with Lidom being included in MLB TV, LMP has its own streaming service. I'm guessing they'll have a TV deal for the Tucson area, but for everyone else, Lidom will still be the easier, more affordable option. We might see more players from MLB organizations in the LMP. There are always some prospects there and an occasional active MLB player, but they're not seeing them in the numbers they used to. Maybe the idea of playing ball in the winter without leaving the comfort of the country they play in all summer will be appealing to more MLB prospects. Maybe some active big leaguers too. That would give the team a big talent boost and generate more fan interest, especially if it were a Diamondbacks player. Of course, this would only benefit the Tucson team, but then maybe it encourages more Mexican players to return home for the winter, playing for the other 9 teams, and help maintain a balance of power within the LMP. This also means that if the Tucson team wins the LMP title, they can advance to the Caribbean Series. It would be the first time a U.S.-based team competes in the Caribbean Series. But, as is custom, since they're representing the LMP, they would take the field wearing Mexico uniforms, surrounded by Mexico flags, and would simply be known as Mexico. Which really isn't all that weird because most of the players will be Mexican, but it is a U.S.-based team, so it'd be a bit awkward at first. I'm sure we'd get over it quickly, though. Anyway, the season starts on October 16th. 68-game schedule, so 34 games in Tucson. Should be interesting. And that's all I've got to say about it. But I'm looking at it from the outside. To any LMP fans in Mexico, is it true what the presidents of the LMP and Mayos de Navajoa said, that the team was struggling badly and they were out of options? Or is there more to it than that? Do you think this is a good thing for the LMP? Or does it make you worried about the future direction of the league? Fans in Arizona, is there a lot of excitement? Do you think the team will be a success in Tucson? Fans in the Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, or anywhere else, how would you feel if the same thing happened with one of your own domestic teams? No matter where you're commenting from, let me know what you think about this. Anyway, that's all for this one. Until next time, this is Baseball International. See ya.